Hi everyone, we're back playing with the Volvo. We are at just over 130,000 miles now, and I'm getting ready to do a transmission fluid exchange. So I had it done at 60,000 miles, and I had it done by the dealer. Um, Most of you probably know that many of the underpinnings of this car are Ford Land Rover in this era 2015 Volvo V60 with the inline 5 cylinder, and so they could just hook it up to the T-Tech and flush it out, and it was pretty much cheaper than what I could do it for myself, so I had them do it. Well, I went back to them another 70,000 miles later. They're no longer doing um, that service. They told me that they don't have the machines to do it anymore. All the fluids are lifetime, so they don't need to do that. Um, I respectfully disagree with that point of view, especially since I do some towing with my car, and want to make sure that this drivetrain goes as long as it can. So actually, previously I just redid the both um, both gearboxes, front and rear. This is all-wheel drive, and I did the Haldex change again, and I've shown those in previous videos, but I've done it again. So let me show you where we are. I've got the front of the car up on ramps, and I've got the rear supported by jacks, and basically I've measured the height of the wheel well here. Make sure it's even. I just measured it before I drove it on the ramps, and made note of the height. Basically, this car sits about even. Cross country might be a little different. XC60 might be a little different. But anyway, just make sure you have it level. That's important for the proper fluid level. And let me show you what parts I got. So this is the first time that I'm not using the Volvo specific branded fluids, but in this case, since it's an Aisin transmission, and this is the spec fluid, theoretically what's in the Volvo bottles, the pricing is like half the price or more less, so I couldn't pass that up. So basically what I have is 16 quarts of the Aisin OWS fluid, and this is the TF80 transmission. So I have the 6-speed transmission. I think the 4 cylinders will have the 81, the TG81. And so there are some minor differences in parts here. I got the drain plug gaskets. I've got all new gaskets, and that's a 307 13220. For some reason I made a mistake, and I bought 2 of the oil fill plug seals, and that's a 307 35186. I've got this little tiny O-ring for the drain plug, and couldn't get that in a Volvo part, but it's an equivalent part, 1233068. And then I got a new drain plug, and that's a 307 13219. So those are the parts necessary. The first step is to get the fill plug out. Make sure you can get that out. In my case, I have a 10mm bolt here to move this wiring harness or battery cable out of the way, and then underneath that, you can just see it peeking out, is the T55 Torx. And mine is very tight. Hopefully, I actually had a pretty poor bit. I had to run out and get a new set of bits. I had damaged my T55 bit, so it wasn't gripping very well. So I'm hoping with a breaker bar, hopefully I don't have to use an impact wrench. I don't think that would be a good idea, but Make sure you can get that off first before you drain any fluid out. So let me work on that and then I'll come. I was able to break it loose. Let me show you what I needed to get that done. I needed a breaker bar, and just for reference, the length on the breaker bar is about 14 inches. And apologies, I didn't have the right extension, so I stuck 2 extensions together and then a brand new T55 Torx bit. But that was able to snap it loose. It was quite jarring. I ended up getting a blood blister out of it, but at least I was able to break it free because I was worried about it. I had tried it with the other bit and I couldn't get to it. You can see I moved the wiring harness out of the way. So now we can press on and start draining fluid. Yeah, so as you can see, there is an oil ring there. So there is no need for it to be excessively tight. Maybe that's part of discouraging people from changing the fluid. Anyway, I just backed that out, wiped it off, make sure there's no debris around there, and I'm going to thread it back in for now while I get ready to drain. I wanted to show you one more tool that I'm using. This is from Autel. It's the AP Max 200 or something like that. It's a little dongle, and then there's an app, and you get one free specialty car programmer, and so that lets you do the specialty Volvo modules and stuff. It's really nice. It's pretty inexpensive, somewhere between $50 and $70, and you can read live data from it. And so that's what I'm going to use to check the transmission fluid temperature. And actually, I'm going to check it right now because I actually went out and ran some errands. My guess is that the transmission temperature might be pretty dang hot, and I might have to let it cool down before I do the final level. It's probably a good idea to do it from cold, you know, warm it up where you can control the temperature and not let it creep up too high, and then get it to the temperature for the final fill level. But in this case, I had to run and get some more tools and stuff, so I'm just curious. I'm going to plug this in, see what temperature the transmission fluid is currently. Yeah, so I did check it. I'll put screenshots up, but right now it's at 76 degrees Celsius, which is about 16 degrees too high to set the level. So we're gonna have to let the car cool down. But I'm still gonna flush it and while it's hot, and then I'll just wait for it to cool to do the final level setting. So might take an hour, or I'm not too sure how long it'll take to cool down from 76, but we'll see how it goes. Maybe putting in some new fluid will cool it down, but I'll let you know. So let's get under the car and we'll drain the fluid. Okay, so we're underneath the car and I've removed this cardboard cover, and here's the transmission, and this is what we're after here. This is the T40, and then the outside of that, after you pull that, that helps you, that sets the level, and then to drain all the fluid, we pull this with the 17mm hex socket. So we're going to, first we're going to take out this T40 and see how much fluid comes out. Some will probably come out since it's since the temperature is higher than the 60 degrees Celsius spec, but we won't know for sure until we do that. So let's do that next. Let's see if I can pull this off with camera in one hand and suck it in the other. And I've got some gloves on. Hopefully they'll prevent me from getting burned too badly. Now we had quite a little bit of fluid come out. Oh, look at that! I got lucky and the plug stayed on the bit. That's nice. So we'll let that drain until it doesn't drain anymore, and then we'll get this 17 millimeter out, and that's where most of the fluid will come up. I'll probably try and find something to raise this up so it doesn't splash too much, because I can imagine it's going to come ripping out of there and make a giant mess. Alright, check back in just a second. Well, I didn't show it because I needed both hands, but to get that 17 millimeter out, I needed the 14-inch breaker bar. I couldn't get it with a ratchet. It was super tight. So just to let you know, that might be the case for you. And I know that this case has never been opened up. It's never been drained. Because it was flushed through the hoses using the T-Tech by the dealer. So anyway, we can take this apart. Oh, let me get something underneath this and raise it up a little bit. All right, got everything ready here. Let's see how terrible this is going to be. I'm just going to let this drop into the pan, I think. Not going to try and save it. Oh. It's not too bad. It's not making too much of a mess. And the good news is it's very red still. That's great. So 60,000, well, 70,000 miles on this fluid, and it's very nice and red. So that's great. Could have went longer on it, but I'd rather be safe than sorry. All right, so I'm going to let this finish draining, and then we're going to measure it to see how much comes out. Okay, so we transferred that fluid out, and as you can see, I guess it looked red when we drained it, but you can see there is some material. It's kind of a dark red. So there is some friction material in there, which you would expect for 60,000 miles. So anyway, this markup here is 3.5 liters. This is 3 liters. So we were able to drain just under 3 liters. So that gives you an idea. This was, remember, the temperature of the transmission was hot, about 70 degrees. So you may be able to drain more or less depending upon the temperature of your transmission. So what we're going to do is we're going to overfill it a little bit. I'm just going to put like 4 quarts in, and then we're going to cycle through all the gears really slowly, and then we'll drain it again. I'm going to use the old plugs, the old gaskets, until the final drain. So let me get set up for that, and we'll check back in. Okay, so let's add 4 quarts to the transmission. And I have to admit, I did buy this funnel along with the other parts from FCP Euro, and this makes it really nice. It's got a long reach. I didn't have any funnels that were like that. So that's 1. 2. 3. And last one, 4. And I didn't show it, but I put both plugs back in underneath. So hopefully this is not draining down on the floor. I don't hear anything. Alright, so the next part is we'll cycle through all of the gears: park, reverse, neutral, drive, and then back and forth, thinking about 30 seconds per interval. And then we'll do the temperature before and after that cycle. All right, so this is after the first or the second drain. So after putting in the first 4 quarts, running it through the cycle, and then draining it. So see, the color's pretty good. It's still pretty dark. So there's still material coming out, and so that's what you want, and hopefully each successive time it gets better. So we're going to repeat this cycle 4 times, and you might be questioning why I decided to do 16 quarts. I don't think any of the other examples use that much fluid to flush, but I did the calculation. There were some assumptions made. So total volume of the system, 7 liters, and then each drain and fill being about 3.5 liters. It actually takes 4 cycles to replace 90% of the fluid, and I wanted to at least replace 90% of the fluid. And I'll put the calculations down below how much is estimated to be replaced after each successive session. All right, so we're in the car and we're just shifting through the gears, about to a count of 30 for each time. And that's just to make sure that the fluid goes through the whole system and mixes well. All right, that's it. That's the cycle. And I measured the temperature before, so putting new fluid in, drop the temperature down to about 60, 61, and then after this cycle, about 30 seconds per on the way down and back on the way up in each park, reverse, neutral drive. it raised it up to about 71. So about 10 degrees increase. So that's about, let's see, 1 minute, 2 minute, about 4 minutes total. We'll raise it about 10 degrees on a hot day. Results may vary. All right, so then we're just going to repeat this cycle until we're all out of fluid. Okay, so we just drained the third fill, and we got one fill and one drain left to go. I found after the first fill there was a lot of hot fluid in there, and so the temperature after adding the first fill in and circulating it, it went from like 60 degrees to 70 degrees. But now when I'm checking it and going through all the gears and stuff, it's going from like 61 to 66 or whatever. So I'm going to add the final 4 quarts, and I'm going to let the whole system sit for like an hour, because I'd like to get down to 50 something degrees so we can get between that 50 and 60. I don't want to be pushing it right at the top of 60. So everything's going good. I didn't catch the first 2 drains, or the first 3 drains. First 2, yeah, because it'll be 4 total. And it wouldn't have been good anyway because I dumped it into my oil catch pan that I use everything for, and it was really gritty and stuff, so it wouldn't give a good accurate. So I did collect the third drain, and so we can take a look at that and see how it compares to new fluid, and then we'll look at the last one. So what you can see on the left is the third drain, and then in the middle there is where the 4th drain is going to go, and then on the right is brand new fluid. So you can see there is still, it's still darker even after 3 fills and drains. And we can put it on some paper here just to see how it compares. And I tried to get the worst case scenario. I caught that sample at the very end, when it's trickling and when it was dirtiest. So let me see if I can get out of the light here. But you can see it's just a touch darker than new. And so, hopefully after the last drain, it'll be as close as we can get it. And it'll be, mathematically, it'll be 90% changed. So there's still theoretically about 10% of the original fluid in there. So that's where we're at. We're going to let it cool for an hour, and then we'll put the new O-rings and the new gaskets on. We'll tighten everything. Well, we'll do that at the very, we'll do the metal gasket, but we'll do the O-ring at the very end with the new plug. So, all right, and we're back. It's about an hour and a half later. We gave this time to cool down, and we're gonna do the last fill. So let's do that. Let's get everything buttoned up. Okay, so this is the 17 millimeter with the tube that sets the level, and we're just gonna take that gasket off and clean this up. It's pretty clean. And so we'll just drop our new gasket onto that, make sure they're the same. Yep, they look pretty much the same. And then this is our fill plug, and it's got an O-ring. So wipe that down. Get the O-ring off. Clean this up. be in good shape. A little crusty on the outside, that's fine. And let's slip this new O-ring on. Okay, looks good. Alright, everything's all set, so we'll put that into the car. Alright, so we're back underneath the car and we're just gonna wipe everything clean. Back this off a little bit. Oh. There we go. Wipe any fluid that got in there. And then we'll put this in. Okay. And then we'll tighten that up, and we're going to put the old this old plug back in until the very last minute. So let's button that up, and then we'll fill up the case with the last fill. We're back up top, and we're going to get this this last plug ready and put the O-ring on that. So we're all ready to go. And looks good. That's ready. Alright, I didn't show it, but I did put this, the old plug back in. And so we're going to do our last fill. Last 4 quarts. And 4. Alright, so we're ready to go through the gears again, and then we're going to get it up to temperature between 50 and 60 degrees Celsius. And then while it's running, we're going to pull the little plug out, set the level, and then put the new plug in. Okay, we're in the car and I checked the temperature and it's at 50 degrees right now, so perfect. Took about an hour and a half to drop from 60 to 50 degrees Celsius. So we're just going to run through the gears really quick, and then while it's running we're going to pull the small drain plug until it's down to a trickle, and then Then we'll put in the new plug with the new O-ring, and then we'll be all set. I'm just going to go through the gears one more time. And I'm just doing to like a count of 10. Because I don't want it to get too hot too fast. Alright, so I'll check the temperature. Okay, so we're at 52 degrees. I'm going to grab the new plug. And I'm going to remove the old plug. And we'll set the level. And I want to catch a little bit of that fluid, just so we can do a color comparison. Ah, shoot. I lost track of my new plug, so I'm going to put the old one back in just for a second. So I can find my new one. Hang on. Okay, so we're at 55 degrees. We got the new plug right there. I'm gonna take this old one out and let it go down to a gerbil. We'll get that new one in there. And we'll just snug that up. And we're all set. Alright, let's do one last comparison. So on the left is the third drain, and then the middle is the last drain, and then on the right is brand new fluid. And they look a little bit darker if we put some light on it. They're pretty close, you know, but nothing short of doing a ton more changes. This is about as good as I think it's going to get for me. So that's it. And the very last thing is we need to put the fill plug back in with the new O-ring and snug that up with the P55. And then we're all good. Just about wraps it up. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you learned a few things. Hope you find it useful. I'm glad to have the fluid changed and be good for another 60,000 miles. Was happy with the condition of the fluid that came out of it, considering, you know, that I tow with the car and you know, it gets mileage accrued pretty quickly. So we'll be good for another 60,000 miles. And while the fluid wasn't horrible when it started, it certainly is much better now. So it gives me peace of mind for the future. All right, have a good one. We'll see you next time. Bye.